He saw a shivering woman at the bus stop, struggling to count change with trembling hands. So he handed her some bus money, just being kind. But what he didn't know, she was actually a millionaire CEO, hiding in plain sight, and what happened next would change both of their lives forever. Before we dive in, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to The Kind World for more heartwarming stories that restore your faith in humanity. Liam trudged down the slick sidewalk, his boots splashing through shallow puddles. As rain tapped steadily on his shoulders, his work uniform clung to him, soaked through after a long shift at the garage. The cold wind bit through his jacket, and the city lights reflected off the wet pavement, casting golden streaks in the growing darkness. As he approached the bus stop at the corner of Hawthorne and 8th, something made him slow down. There, sitting on the bench with her shoulders hunched against the cold, was a woman who looked utterly out of place. She wasn't dressed like someone who should be struggling. Her coat, though soaked, was elegant, and her boots looked expensive, though now caked in mud. She was digging through a sleek leather purse, but with shaking fingers and furrowed brows. Coins clinked softly as she counted, paused, then counted again, her lips moving slightly. Her hair stuck to her cheek, and her mascara had run faintly beneath her eyes as if she'd been crying before the rain came. Liam paused a few feet away, unsure at first whether to say something. People passed her by, some glancing, most not rushing to escape the storm. But there was something in the way she sat, something that didn't feel like just another person waiting for a bus. Her desperation was quiet but loud enough for anyone truly looking to see, and Liam noticed. He always noticed people like that. He stepped closer, slowly, so as not to startle her. "Hey," he said softly, pulling a few crumpled bills from his back pocket. "I don't mean to intrude, but here, for the bus." He extended his hand, holding out a couple of damp dollar bills. The woman looked up sharply, as if snapped out of a trance. Her eyes locked on his wide, glassy, guarded at first, but in a second something in her gaze shifted. His eyes weren't filled with pity or judgment, just simple, human concern, the kind she hadn't seen in a long, long time. She blinked, then slowly reached for the money, her cold fingers brushing his. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice was so quiet it was nearly lost in the rain. Liam gave a small nod, awkward but sincere. He didn't ask questions, didn't press her story. He just stepped back, hands in his pockets, waiting silently beside her for his own bus. What he didn't know was that the woman beside him was Evelyn Carter, CEO of one of the most successful tech companies in the country. She'd walked away from her office that morning, told her assistant to cancel everything, and turned off her phone. No driver, no bodyguard, no press, just Evelyn alone. She didn't know exactly what she was running from. Maybe it was the pressure, the board meetings, the endless cycle of performance and perfection, or maybe it was the hollow feeling that had grown louder with every success. But today, she had broken. She'd wandered the streets in the rain, hoping to feel something real, and here it was a mechanic with $12 to his name, offering her bus fare with no agenda, no camera, no idea who she even was. It made her chest ache in a way she hadn't felt in years. She watched him out of the corner of her eye. He looked tired, worn from the day, yet patient. He didn't try to start a conversation or pry into her life, just stood there beside her, like a quiet shield from the storm. In that simple act, the offered money, the kind eyes, the silent presence, Evelyn felt something warm stir in her chest. She didn't need the money, not really. She could have walked, called someone, even rented a car. But in that moment, she was a woman who felt seen, not as a CEO, not as a powerful name in business, just as a person in need. And someone cared. She tucked the money into her coat pocket, not intending to spend it, but to keep it. A reminder that even in a world of skyscrapers and suits, kindness still lived at street level. And Liam, he had no idea that his small gesture would not only change her day, but soon, her entire life. The bell above the coffee shop door jingled softly as Liam stepped in, brushing raindrops from his shoulders once again. It had been a long, cold week, and though the storm from last Friday had passed, the memory of that woman at the bus stop hadn't. He didn't even know her name, but her eyes, sad, strong, and full of something unspoken, had stayed with him every day since. He ordered his usual black coffee with a dash of cinnamon, and turned toward the back, hoping for a quiet corner to rest. That's when he saw her, sitting alone by the window, fingers curled around a ceramic cup, staring out at the grey sky like it held answers. Her coat was dry this time, her makeup fresh, but her eyes were the same, and when she looked up and saw him, a flicker of surprise crossed her face, then something softer, relief. Their eyes locked for a beat too long, and then she smiled, not the polite, polished smile of a corporate figurehead, but something real, something grateful. Liam walked over, cautious but curious. "Hey," he said with a slight grin, "didn't expect to see you again." Evelyn gestured toward the seat across from her. "Looks like fate has good timing." He sat down, setting his cup on the table between them. There was a moment of silence, but it wasn't awkward. It was warm, the kind of quiet shared by people who didn't need to pretend. "You're not from around here, are you?" Liam asked, leaning slightly forward, as if part of him was still trying to piece together who she was or who she wasn't. Evelyn stirred her coffee gently. "Not exactly," she said. "I needed to disappear for a bit. Start over." He didn't ask why. He didn't question what she meant by disappear or what kind of life she was escaping. Instead, he just nodded, as if to say, "I get it." Because sometimes kindness isn't about understanding, it's about accepting without needing to. Evelyn looked at him closely. There was something about Liam, maybe the dirt under his nails, maybe the calm in his presence, that made her feel grounded. With him, she didn't have to be composed or impressive, she could just be. So, she said, taking a sip. "What's your story?" Liam chuckled. "Not much of a story. Grew up here, fixed cars, tried to keep my boots dry in the rain." "You?" She hesitated, a small smirk playing at her lips. "Let's just say I used to be someone else, and now I'm trying to figure out who I want to be." He smiled, sipping his coffee. "Sounds like a good place to start." For the first time in years, Evelyn laughed. Not the kind she gave reporters or board members. This was lighter, unfiltered, genuine. The laugh of a woman rediscovering what it felt like to be human, to connect. And Liam, he didn't know where this was going. He didn't know her last name or her past. But what he did know was that her laugh made something stir in him, something he hadn't felt in a long time. They sat there for over an hour, talking about small things, movies, childhood memories, rainy days. No business, no titles, just two strangers who didn't feel like strangers anymore. Outside, the rain began to slow, and inside, two lives, once separate, once quietly broken, were beginning to mend. One cup of coffee and one honest smile at a time. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, revealing a breathtaking view that immediately stole Liam's breath. The entire top floor stretched out before him, polished marble floors reflecting golden light from crystal chandeliers, abstract paintings lining the walls, and a grand piano sitting quietly near floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the city. Skyline like a painting. He stepped out slowly, almost unsure if he was in the right place. It didn't feel real. This wasn't the kind of space where people like him were invited. It felt like a dream built out of magazine pages and luxury catalogs. He glanced down at his clean but simple shirt, suddenly hyper-aware of every scratch on his boots. Evelyn appeared from around the corner, barefoot, holding 2 glasses of wine. She wore a soft, elegant dress, nothing flashy, just timeless and graceful, like her. But it wasn't her clothes or her surroundings that caught him off guard. It was the way she looked at him, like he belonged there. "Hey," she said with a smile, handing him a glass. Liam took it, still in awe. His eyes moved around the room, slowly taking it all in again. "You live here?" he asked, his voice quiet, half in disbelief. She nodded, walking over to the windows where the city glittered below. "Yeah, I do. I built this, the company, the brand, all of it." Liam followed her gaze, still struggling to wrap his head around it. The woman he'd met at a rainy bus stop lived here. Evelyn turned to face him, her voice softer now. "But somewhere along the way, I lost myself. Everything became numbers, meetings, deals. I forgot what real connection felt like, until you reminded me what kindness feels like." Liam looked at her, trying to find the right words. The woman standing before him wasn't the mysterious stranger with wet hair and trembling hands anymore. She was powerful, accomplished, but also human, vulnerable, alone. He remembered her quiet thank you at the bus stop, her nervous smile at the cafe. And now, the truth behind the smile she wore, not as a mask, but as a memory of something lost and slowly rediscovered. Asterisk, I don't know what to say. Liam said, honestly. Asterisk, you don't have to say anything, she replied, stepping closer. You already said everything. That day you handed me a few crumpled dollars and asked nothing in return. Asterisk, he was stunned. Not because she was a CEO or because her home looked like it belonged in a movie, but because she meant every word. This wasn't about wealth or power. This was about a woman who had finally been seen, and a man who had offered kindness without knowing he was rescuing someone who had once seemed untouchable. Asterisk, and in that moment, standing in a glass tower filled with beauty and silence, Liam saw Evelyn for who she truly was. Not the CEO, not the woman with everything, but the soul who had once been lost in the rain, and somehow had found her way back. Asterisk, the boardroom was a sea of tension and tapping fingers. Suits lined a long table, each face angled toward Evelyn as she stood. At the head, sharp, composed, and distant, a large screen displayed quarterly reports. Investors awaited decisions. Assistants took notes at lightning speed. Reporters outside buzzed with anticipation. The CEO's return after weeks of silence was headline-worthy. Asterisk, but something was different. Evelyn wasn't the same woman they remembered. Asterisk, she stood there, watching graphs and projections rise and fall, but her eyes were far away, somewhere beyond the numbers, beyond the sterile boardroom. Her reflection in the glass wall behind them no longer resembled the powerful figure they all admired. It looked tired, disconnected, out of place. Asterisk, someone asked a question about expansion. Someone else mentioned a merger. She didn't answer. Asterisk, instead, Evelyn slowly closed her laptop. The room fell silent. Asterisk, I'll be back, she said quietly, and without another word. She turned and walked out, leaving billion-dollar conversations behind. Asterisk, whispers erupted the moment she stepped into the hallway, heels clicking on marble. Her assistant rushed after her, confused. Miss Carter, do you want me to reschedule the afternoon? Asterisk, but Evelyn didn't answer. Her phone buzzed in her hand. Missed calls, urgent emails, PR alerts. She ignored them all. She walked through the tall glass doors of the building and stepped outside into the fresh air where a cab was already waiting. Where he was waiting. Asterisk, Liam stood leaning casually against the car, hands in his pockets, clearly unsure what she would say. His clothes were simple. As always, he wasn't rich. He wasn't important. Not to the outside world, but to Evelyn. He was the only thing that felt real. Asterisk, she stepped closer to him, a soft breeze pulling strands of hair across her face. Her voice was low, but firm. Asterisk, they can wait, she said, locking eyes with him. You're the only one who didn't care who I was, only how I was. That's real. Asterisk, Liam's expression softened, a flicker of disbelief in his eyes. He'd never asked her for anything, never expected anything. He'd simply shown up, again and again, with kindness and patience. Asterisk, Evelyn took his hand. I don't want boardrooms anymore, she whispered. I want mornings that start slow, coffee in mismatched mugs, someone who listens, someone who makes me laugh. I want you. Asterisk, there was no fanfare, no applause, just the truth, standing between them. Asterisk, Liam didn't need time to think. He squeezed her hand gently. I never wanted anything from you, he said, except you. Asterisk, she smiled, this time fully, not for the press, not to impress, not to lead, just to feel. And for the first time in years, Evelyn wasn't chasing success. She was choosing love. The house by the lake was nothing like the towering penthouse Evelyn once called home, and that was exactly the point. It was modest, with chipped white paint on the windowsills, a wraparound porch filled with potted flowers, and the soothing sounds of water lapping gently at the nearby shore. Birds chirped in the mornings, and the air smelled like pine and fresh soil from the garden they planted together. It was quiet, peaceful, and more full of life than any city skyline could offer. Asterisk, Evelyn stood barefoot in the garden, gently tying up a tomato vine as the sun warmed her back. Behind her, the small garage Liam had converted into a workspace echoed with soft music and the occasional clang of tools. They had built this place with their hands, with laughter, with love, not with contracts or blueprints, but with heart. Asterisk, but the real beauty of their new life wasn't just the home, it was what they chose to do with it. Asterisk, they opened a shelter, not a flashy non-profit with donors and billboards, but a simple, safe space for women who needed a fresh start. Women escaping abuse, poverty, or loneliness. Women who, like Evelyn once was, needed someone to look at them and see a person, not a problem. Asterisk, no headlines covered their efforts. No press came knocking. They didn't want attention, they wanted impact. Evelyn used her resources quietly, channeling what she had into beds, food, education, and healing. And Liam, he taught practical skills, fixed broken things, and more than once rebuilt someone's hope with a kind word and a warm smile. Asterisk, the woman who once sat alone at a bus stop, cold and lost, was now a beacon for others, not because of her past titles, but because of her heart, because of the journey that taught her the value of being seen, the value of being kind. Asterisk, and the man who had handed her a few dollars with oil on his hands and sincerity in his eyes, had given her something far more valuable than money. He had given her a new life. Together, they didn't just live differently, they loved differently. Slower, deeper, truer. Their days were filled with meaning, not meetings, with people, not profits, and the world they built, not with wealth, but with warmth, was a kind world. Asterisk, a world where one act of compassion led to many, where broken things were fixed, where no one sat alone in the rain, unnoticed. Asterisk, if this story touched your heart, click the like button and subscribe to The Kind World, because kindness doesn't just change lives, it creates new ones. Asterisk.